consumers. The conference is aimed to prioritize the human experience while leveraging technology to enhance consumer relationships. Over the next 2 days, we look forward to engaging discussions, insightful presentations, and networking opportunities.
Now, I request Dr. Pankaj Singh, Conference Convener, ICOMS 2025, to welcome our esteemed dignitaries onto the dais. Professor K.S. Venugopal Rao, Director, ICOMBS Business School, Hyderabad, and our distinguished chief guest, Professor Himanshu Rai, Director, Indian Institute of Management, Indore. Thank you, sir. We are truly privileged to have you here.
Now I request Professor G.K. Shrikant to welcome our chief guest, Professor Himanshu Rai, with a sapling.
Thank you, sir. Now, I request Professor Shailendra Singh Best to welcome our Director, Professor K.S. Venugopal Rao, with a sapling.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Dr. Vikas Chauhan, co-convener, to welcome our conference convener, Dr. Pankaj Singh, with a sapling. To mark the formal commencement of this conference, we invite our esteemed dignitaries on the dais to come forward for the ceremonial lighting of the lamp. I request Professor D. Satish, Dean ICOMBS Hyderabad, to come on the stage. I also request Professor Mukesh Kumar Mishra, Senior Chair of Marketing and Strategy Department, to join us for lighting of lamp. Lighting of lamp, a timeless symbol of knowledge, wisdom, and enlightenment. Shubham Karoti Kalani, Arogyam Dhana Sampada, Shatru Buddhi Vinashaya, Deep Jyoti Namostate.
May this lighting of lamp bring auspiciousness, well-being, health, and prosperity to all. May it dispel the darkness of ignorance and negativity.
Thank you, sir.
It is our privilege to introduce our esteemed director, Professor K.S. Venugopal Rao. Professor Venugopal Rao possesses a diverse educational background commencing with a bachelor's degree in economics from Nizam's College, Hyderabad, followed by an MBA from Usmania University and culminating in a PhD from Kakatiya University, Warangal. Following over a decade of valuable industry experience, including significant roles at Merck Electronics Limited, Tata Infotech Limited, Sparktech Ceramics, his passion for teaching and training led him to transition to academia. Joining ICOMBS Business School, Hyderabad in December 2008, after completing his PhD, Professor Rao progressed within the department, Marketing and Strategy, in January 2014. Recognized for his dedication and leadership, he was appointed as Director of ICOMBS Business School, Hyderabad, in March 2023. Under his leadership, the institution flourished. The school has nearly 5,700 students across undergraduate, postgraduate, and doctoral programs. Renowned for his contribution to institutional development, he garnered the Best Faculty Award for Institutional Development in 2017 and 2019. Additionally, he served as the Initial Accreditation Coordinator WCSB, pivotal in the accreditation for ISB Hyderabad in February 2020. As a faculty member in the Department of Marketing and Strategy, Professor Rao has significantly contributed to research and academia, authoring approximately 35 research papers, presenting 14 conference papers. Beyond his professional commitments, he finds solace in reading and relaxing through music, embodying a commitment to excellence as he leads our institution with dedication. Please join us in welcoming Professor K.S. Rao for his address.
Professor Himanshu, Director I am Indore, Professor Mukesh, the Head of the Department, Marketing and Strategy, Dr. Pankaj, the Conference Chair, Dr. Vikas Chauhan, Dr. Radhakrishna, who are part of the conference, senior colleagues, directors, deans, delegates who have come for this conference, and my dear students. It's an absolute honor and a privilege to stand here amongst you today. To inaugurate and say a few words from my side as the head of the school. And at the same time, we are thrilled to have Dr. Himanshu, a man who wears many hats. As I was going through his resume and his many accomplishments. He is a man of many faces, as you will realize in a while from now, after he starts his address. So we are really glad that you are here and you took your time from your hectic schedules and came here. I remember my early days in education when I was coming into academics. 2004 was the year when I visited IIM Indore, and it was a campus that was building up slowly but surely on a small hillock. And today, when we see the growth that Indore has achieved over the years, it is a testimony to not only to the faculty, but the alumni who are part of this program of IIM Indore. We at IBS also share a similar story. We are about 30 years old now, 3 decades now, and entirely funded by the dreams of one visionary, Professor NJY, who we fondly call him as NJY. And he was the one who established this place, and I would take a minute or two to explain why our journey is important in a country where education was left unattended largely after independence. And here was somebody who, in 1995, thought that unless private players come into the play and start contributing to the education sector, the country will not move forward. I think that was the vision he had. And today, as we speak, we are proud to inform all of you that we have 9 business schools in the country, 11 universities, about 7 tech schools and 7 law schools, with an annual intake of close to 10,000 students. And this is entirely privately funded. We don't get a single paisa from the government. And to run a system which is as large as this, as complex as this, with multiple schools and multiple disciplines, it calls for a high degree of systematization. A forward-looking approach, a vision, and a common shared values that everybody goes with. And we are very happy. All my colleagues who are sitting here have spent considerable time in the system. And that's one of the reasons why I think we are successful over the years. We have one of the lowest faculty turnover rates. A lot of people stay here for a long time and contribute to the development of the institution. About IFHE, we are part of the ICFI Foundation, which is a deemed university. We got this status in 2008, December 12. And ever since, the university has grown from about 1,600 students. Today, we have about close to 10,000 students and close to about 400 odd faculty And this campus has an off-campus now in Bangalore, which is again growing very fast. There also we have about 1,500 students and about 50 faculty members now. Research-wise, our faculty colleagues have done extremely well. We are a ECSB accredited institution, and we believe that quality is important in all our journey. And the three pillars that govern this innovation, engagement, and impact are something that are very critical for our daily functioning. We have a strong team, a very strong team of faculty colleagues who are heading the programs and different activities here. Coming to conferences, I believe these are as a great platform for all of us to call like-minded research scholars and faculty members from different colleges in the country. And all the 5 departments host these conferences on an annual basis. And besides, we also have a doctoral thesis conference that is held almost every year now. For us, conferences have been a great beginning point for not only engaging with industry but also introducing new areas and new networks. Let me share only the last 5 conferences that we held in this department, which I was also heading for some time. The 5th ICOMBS that was held in 2013, and that was the time when we had the global economic crisis, and the theme was actually called the Global Economic Crisis Implications for Marketing and Strategy. The 6th ICOMS, which was held in 2015, where analytics was just taking over and it was coming very effectively into organizations. The topic was, the theme was analytics for effective marketing. The 7th ICOMS in 17, we spoke about the role of platform economy in India. And in fact, the very next year we launched an elective course called Managing Platform Businesses. We are one of the few colleges who believe that students should get what is in the market rather than waiting for copying somebody else. We believe we should be pioneers in what we do. And that course today, the Managing Platform Business with Professor Shailendra, he's here. Yeah. He was the person who steered it forward. And today, close to about 150 students take this course as an elective. The 8th ICOMS in 2019 was on branding and strategic brand. The 9th ICOMS was on marketing 5.0, and we looked at the opportunities and challenges. And this was during COVID. And the 10th ICOMS in 24 was on technology and sustainability, redefining the future of marketing. Now, open any book, any report, any consultant who talks about marketing today, definitely is going to talk about the intense competition that is happening all over. And I would not be surprised that today marketers have touched and reached our bedrooms in many ways, in drawing rooms in many ways. And if you are a music lover, if you have subscription to either Spotify or to Apple Music, you will get to know how curated the playlists are and how defined and customized your music is. I'm slowly becoming a fan, though I'm aging very fast. I'm becoming a fan of this OTT-based movies, and one of them happens to be Netflix, which I am slowly starting to enjoy. And what I find is every other day I get a notification. Since yesterday you saw this movie, why don't you see this movie on the next weekend? And they also define the day and the time. So this is the level of customization that's going to happen. I'm forced to go back to my 91 days, year 1991, when my marketing prof said that this is the day of mass marketing, where you can have one product for the entire market. The other extreme of the continuum was on individualized product for every customer. So that was a dream in those days. This is 1991, and I still remember my marketing prof, that it is highly impossible to have a customized product for every customer. But today, thanks to technology, I believe that is a big possibility where you can get customized baskets, customized solutions, customized experiences, reaching out to you in many ways, and you are spoiled for choices today. I'm sure everybody in this hall agrees with me that we are so spoiled for choices that we are being literally, go to an extreme now that my nephews keep teasing me. That mama, just wait for under 2 years. There will be nothing called a kitchen now. Right? There will be no kitchen in the house and everybody will stop cooking because you're going to get meals at your doorstep within 10 minutes, the way you want it. And if this is going to be the future, I'm sure research has to take over. Faculty members and the industry has to engage in collaborative research and work. And we have to train students to get into roles and jobs where such things are going to emerge full time. And I'm very confident that all my colleagues here will collaborate with institutions, organizations, and industry to come out with their own research areas and priorities and help communicate to the world outside that when industry and academia come together, there is something that comes out. Let me also share, Dr. Himanshu, we are going very strong on executive education, and in 23-24 though we will say it's not a big revenue, but we touched close to about a crore of revenues just from executive programs to industry. And through sponsored research also, we are trying to connect with industry very strongly. One of the notable projects that we did was with the multi-commodity exchange or the MCX, where our faculty did a primary research at an all-India level. It was sufficiently sitting here. And we believe such engagements will help us to connect the industry better. And coming back to this conference, I'm sure this networking that we enjoy with close to 24,000 alumni from Hyderabad and about 74,000 alumni from all India level, whether in India or abroad, we are on a firm footing, and we hope that the next 5 years is going to be very exciting, and we plan to diversify the programs and courses or engagement with industry and collaborations with outside stakeholders to ensure that the brand IBS and ICFI move forward. And without wasting or taking more time, I congratulate the Department of Marketing, Dr. Pankaj, the conference chair, Dr. Vikas or Radhakrishna, and all the colleagues in the department, in whichever role you contributed to the success of this conference. I'm sure the program will go on well. I have seen overall plan, the portfolio of activities that you have planned out. I request all of you to kindly give adequate time to the presenters during the paper presentations. And during the talk, where industry has been invited, please allow faculty and students to interact there with the industry and ensure that the outcomes are well documented, and wherever possible try to take it to the next level of research publications. With these few words, I once again warmly welcome all the delegates who have come for this 11th IBS Conference on Marketing and Strategy, and Dr. Himanshu in particular for taking this time out. We look forward to your address to the audience. Truly value your presence today here, and we are sure, sir, we will keep this engagement alive and moving forward. We look forward to more inputs from your side on how collectively we can take the education vision of this country forward. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Now I'm delighted to introduce our esteemed chief guest, Professor Himanshu Rai, Director IIM Indore. Professor Himanshu Rai is the Director of IIM Indore. Under his leadership, IIM Indore got the Triple Crown accreditation of AMBA, AACSB, and ICOMBS, making it one of the 100 institutions in the world to have the honor. Prior to this, he has been the Dean of STA Bakani India Campus, Professor at STA Bakani Milan, and has taught at IIM Lucknow and Exeter. His profile includes a stint of over 8 years at Tata Steel India, where he played a pivotal role in developing a quality system and a communication policy for the company. He is an alumnus of IIM Ahmedabad and Craig Suratkal. His book titled Negotiation is a bestseller, and his TEDx talk on the ethical leadership, lessons from the Vedas, won him several accolades the world over. His book titled Organizational Behavior is co-authored with Stephen Netshin and Marianne Won. He has trained over 50,000 professionals both in the government as well as private sector in negotiation and leaderships. He provides consultancy to the Government of India, state government and World Bank and the Indian industry and industry bodies. Professor Himanshu is the chairperson of the Board of Directors, Indore Management Association, chairperson of the Advisory Board of Durban University of Technology Business School, South Africa, and member, International Advisory Board of ESC Claremont Graduate School of Management, France. He is on the Advisory Committee of National Commission for Women, members of the High Powered Advisory Committee on Indian Knowledge System of Ministry of Education, and member, Vision at 2047 Committee of the Government of India. He is an independent director on the boards of several companies and advisor to several startups. His personal initiative, Center for Conflict Management, is helping resolve interpersonal and interpersonal conflicts among the youth across several countries. He is a recipient of NTAC Scholarship, Infosys Fellowship, and LMA Outstanding Management Professional Award 2022, among numerous other awards and honors. He has also been adjudged as being among 25 most influencing voices from India by LinkedIn and among top 10 motivational speakers from India by Medium.com. Professor Himanshu also practices and teaches yoga and considers the Himalayas his spiritual abode. Passionate about mountaineering and trekking, he has scaled Kilimanjaro, Everest Base Camp, Rudragaira, Kalapathar, Nagarsan, Katling, and Chakrashila peaks. He has done the world's longest zip line and has skydived from 13,000 feet. An avid quizzer, Professor Himanshu has conducted over 100 quiz shows across the country and has had a delightful stint in dramatics with many plays to his credit, both as an actor and a director. He also develops a keen interest in reading and collecting books with a strong passion for music. Please join me in welcoming Professor Himanshu Rai, Director I am yours for his address.
Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I was planning to write a biography, but clearly it's not needed now. Because whatever there was to be known about me is already known. I have to tell mom, this is a shorter introduction. Sorry about that. I was just thinking time and it took almost 2.5 minutes. That's 2.5 minutes less for me to talk. Now, when I was invited for this conference very, very graciously, I was wondering what do I speak on? Because this conference is on marketing. I cannot claim to be a marketing person. Once in a while, I'm accused of being an economist for some strange reason. I don't have a background in economics. In fact, Professor Gopal was asking me, oh, so you're an engineer and you wrote a book on OB. I said, well, I pretend to teach a lot of subjects. My PhD is in negotiation, but people thought I could teach HR. And once, just to prove that I can teach other subjects too, I taught finance to my faculty colleagues. Because they said, students say that you can teach everything, so why don't you teach us? And actually did that. But be that as it may, I was very intrigued by the theme of the conference. And therefore, I'm going to spend some time talking about the theme and how does it sit with me. Now, I'm going to foreground my conversation today by talking about, first of all, what kind of a world are we living in? Because although these scholars said that we are living in a VUCA world, it's volatile, it's uncertain, it's complex, it's ambiguous. But VUCA was in the past. The current world that we are living in is the Barney world, where the B of the Barney stands for brittle. Brittle, as in all the systems that we thought were very, very strong, along came COVID, and suddenly we realized that the systems were very, very brittle. For example, the global supply chain. We thought that this world was a global village. Everything, the movement, etc., between countries, between cities, between states, etc., is going to be very, very smooth. But along comes COVID, and suddenly there is a shutdown. There's a lockdown. The cities were locked down. My own beautiful 193-acre campus was locked down. The states were locked down. In fact, you had lockdown of some amazing magnitudes, where in Australia, you can come from one country to a state, but you could not move from one state to the other state of Australia. And therefore, the entire system that we thought was rock solid turned out to be very brittle. The A of the Barney stands for anxious. We live in a world where there is collective anxiety. one of the anxieties today is about geopolitics, and the second is about artificial intelligence. Now, geopolitics is becoming more and more weird with the current president of one of the democracies in the world who seems to be taking his hands off everything and putting them in places where he should not be. The geopolitics is becoming very, very interesting. And the other thing is about artificial intelligence. Of course, with Amit here, I should not be the one talking about artificial intelligence. But I'll just give you an example, because one of the questions I'm always asked, next time, of course, Amit, I'll hand them over to you, is artificial intelligence going to replace human beings? And my answer to them is no. Artificial intelligence will not replace human beings, but people who know and use AI will replace people who don't know or don't use AI. And this is where I think we academics have a very, very long way to go, because we are always the laggards. This is something that we are accused of, and the accusation is perfectly fine. And I'll tell you why. Because in my own academic council meeting, the first time I discussed ChatGPT, I said, so what do we do about ChatGPT? The answer of the academic council was, let's ban ChatGPT. Hang on. That bus has left the stop, that water is under the bridge. You can't ban ChatGPT. It's like 60 years back, somebody say, let's ban calculators, let's go back to the log tables. No, you can't do that. It's there. And therefore, what you need to understand and what you need to work out is, how do we help the students use ChatGPT better? How do we use generative AI? How do we make it work for us? And therefore, we said we need to create, and I told them we need to create some kind of a responsible ethical framework around AI. Then one of the smart Alex in the academic council got up and said, oh, you were talking about this simply because you are right. So you're talking about responsible AI. I said, it's a coincidence that I happen to be a RAI, and that also stands for responsible AI. But then the whole point was that this anxiety is real. And therefore, we need to acknowledge this. This geopolitical system is real, and we need to acknowledge it. So that is the anxious word that I'm talking about. The N stands for non-linear. Something which has apparently no connect with others seems to be affecting it. One of the primary examples, so we have a large presence in terms of executive education in the Middle East and the GCC countries. And one of the things, when the Russia-Ukraine war extended beyond 3 months, the real estate prices in Dubai started shooting up. Now, somebody might say, hey, that's a correlation, there's no causality. But when we dug deeper, there was a causality. And the causality was that the riches, the super rich of Russia and Ukraine, realizing that this war is not coming to an end as quickly as they had envisaged it to be, were moving their wealth, most of it ill-gotten. And where do you invest it? In real estate. And which is the best place to invest in real estate? Dubai and the Middle East. And therefore, a war in one place was leading to a spike in the real estate prices in another part of the world. So that is the non-linearity that I'm talking about. And the I stands for incomprehensible. There are some things which we cannot comprehend. COVID once again taught us that. We thought that we understood the virus, but we did not know how did it mutate. We did not know in what form it is living. It is living with us, for sure. The only thing is we have probably gotten used to it. Climate change. We thought that we understood climate change. We thought that if the global temperatures was kept below 2 degrees centigrade, everything would be fine. Then we said, no, hang on. It's not 2 degrees centigrade, it's 1.5 degrees centigrade. And then we did some more research, and then we said, oh, we are screwed anyway. Why? Because even if I had a magic wand, and even if we were to stop the greenhouse gases emission, the world will still get warmer, because it takes 80 to 100 years for greenhouse gases to dissipate. And we already have 570 gigatons of them in the atmosphere. Not that we are doomed, but we will have to adapt. We'll have to do something drastically different. Therefore, with this program, what has this Bani done? And why is it important for us to be discussing this as well in this conference? There are certain challenges that this Bani world has actually exacerbated so far as our country is concerned. Now, she said that I'm in the Vision 2047 committee of the government of India when we're talking about the Viksit Bharat in 2027, but there are going to be 4 very clear obstacles in us reaching there. That is something that I call 4 wicked problems. And at ICOMBS, we are trying to use technology to actually address those wicked problems. So I'm not going to talk about technology and consumer, and I'll tell you why later, because to me, consumer is a part of it. What I believe, where universities like yours and ours come in, is that pre-2000, the mission of the universities used to be to create and disseminate knowledge, to build business acumen. However, the first decade of the 21st century was actually a decade of reckoning because in 2001 we had the Enron scandal, and then in 2008 we had the US subprime crisis. We had our own Satyam scam in 2008, and therefore what we realized was that possibly the mission of the university, because these are the people who were coming out of our universities, they were coming out of the business schools, the best of the business schools in the world, and therefore we said we need to relook at our mission statements. And therefore, the universities, the good universities around the world started talking about their mission as creating, curating, practicing, and disseminating knowledge to solve real world problems. And what are those real world problems? So those are the four challenges, four big problems that I want to talk about in today's context. One is income disparity. I don't know how many of you know this, but 1% of people in India hold 40% of the wealth. 10% of the people in India hold 60% of the wealth. We cannot become a Viksit Bharat this way. And if you look at the income disparity vis-a-vis gender, then the difference between an underprivileged woman and a privileged man in India is 80 years. 80. You cannot have economic progress unless this is addressed. So what did we do? We started taking some small steps. So there's a scheme of Government of India called ODOP, one district, one product, wherein for each district, for example, in Uttar Pradesh, you have 75 districts, and for each district, they have identified a project. And likewise, in Madhya Pradesh, you have 50 districts. For each district, they have identified a product, and then they try to help the people and the ecosystem around that product work better. We picked up a district in Madhya Pradesh, which was a Hardra district, where the product is bamboo, and then we helped create e-marketplace using technology so that they could export things. And likewise, we picked up chicken curry in Lucknow, and we helped the chicken curry artisans in creating an e-marketplace. Now, once we did that, we expected the artisan income to rise, but much to our horror, it didn't happen. And then we said, hang on, what's happening? We are helping them in selling the products better, and what we got to know was that everything that we had generated was actually going to the middlemen. And these artisans were not willing to become entrepreneurs because they did not have the know-how. So what did we do? We stepped back. We looked at the entire process from raw material procurement to the various designs to the quality system process, including things like where do you get machines from, connected them to people like NID, institutions like NID and NIFT, and then created coffee table books for every process and for every state and democratized the entire information. We gave coffee table books free of cost to all the artisans. And now I'm happy to share that within 6 months of that, the income of the artisans rose by 40%. And that's where we have been able to make a big kind of a contribution by use of technology, but by making sure that we are using our strength, which is the academic acumen, to help resolve these kind of problems. And many people ask me, why UP? You are in Madhya Pradesh. Now that's a problem simply because I work in Madhya Pradesh, but my birthplace is UP. In fact, we just realized that we come from the same, almost the same village, or the place near the same. Our post office is exactly the same, so which is very, very interesting. So every time I do something in Madhya Pradesh, I get a call from Lucknow saying, "Sir, ये नहीं चलेगा. आपकी कर्म भूमि वो होगी, लेकिन जन्म भूमि तो यहाँ है." So I have to do stuff for Uttar Pradesh as well. But be that as it may, what I'm trying to say is that we as an academic community can actually get together and try to mitigate these problems by joining hands with the use of technology. The second element that we picked up were urban infrastructure. The urban challenges are very, very different as compared to certain other challenges. Why? Because there's a massive urbanization happening. In fact, just 2 weeks back, my good friend Shamika Ravi is the economic advisor to the Prime Minister of India. She was there, and she came up with a very interesting statistic. And even I was befuddled by that statistic. And therefore, I pose that question to you because all of you obviously deal with some bit of economics. Tell me, what is the degree of urbanization in India today? How many people live in urban areas in India?
70%.
40%? 35 is what you believe? It's actually 65. So 70, whoever said 70, you're pretty right. You're pretty right. Why? Because the way we have defined urban areas is something that we do not realize that the so-called villages have now actually turned into semi-urban areas. And therefore now 65% of India is actually urbanized. And we still keep talking about rural challenges. Not that rural challenges are not important. In fact, I will talk about them. But the urban challenges are severe because the urban infrastructure is just not geared for these many people. And look at Hyderabad. Even when we were driving, and I was talking to him, and the kind of electricity poles and the wires that you have, etc., is absolutely mind-boggling. The urban infrastructure is not geared for that. Look at Chennai, what's happening in Chennai in terms of water. Indoor traffic is a mess. And therefore, one of the things that we said was, again, we will use technology. So the first challenge that we picked up, and this was a promise that I made on the first press conference that I did after joining in, they said, how do you like Indore? I mean, I said, well, I just spent one day, but what I do know is two things. One, Indore is actually the cleanest city. And that is what I realized in the drive from the airport to the IIM Indore campus, not just on paper, but actually clean. And second, it's a messy when it comes to traffic. The traffic is a nightmare. And I said, I'm going to sort out this traffic issue in 100 days. Within 100 days, we used the Google satellite image data. And then we created a 5E framework, which was education, enforcement, engineering, emergency, and environment, and gave a solution, including engineering solutions like remove the roundabout here, create a roundabout there, remove the traffic lights there, put some traffic lights there, so on and so forth. It was not implemented, that's another story because of political reasons. Subsequently, they might implement it partly this year. They have implemented one part of it, did not give us credit, but that's absolutely fine because we were not looking for it. But the whole point is, once again, technology came to the fore to help us address that kind of problem. And I think that is where our strength lies. That we as academic institutions, if we pick up challenges and put our intellectual heft behind it, and obviously join hands with the likes of Microsoft, etc., I think we can do a lot more to solve these wicked problems in the country. The third wicked problem is rural challenges. Now, almost, if I take the semi-urban also, 900 million people live in rural and semi-urban areas. 900 million people. Wrap your head around that number. That's more than the population of the United States and the Europe combined. And the kind of challenges that they face are completely different. So what we did was two things. One, at IIM Indore, we used to have a program. It was a mandatory course called Rural Immersion Program, where our students had to talk. They would call up people in the villages, find out their problems, and then try to suggest solutions. I said, no, this has to change. So we changed it to Rural Engagement Program for two reasons. One, I did not like the acronym RIP. So I said RIP to RIP. Second, I said this is not enough for you to simply be calling up people and asking them what their problems were. You got to go and live in those villages. So now our students have to mandatorily live in the villages for a week, experience those problems, and then come back and suggest solutions, which with the help of administration, we try and resolve. And again, we are using technology. For example, we looked at water. So we tried to use technology to look at the water levels in all the villages, look at which are water plus, which are water negative, and then can we do something using technology so that we can make water surplus everywhere, or we can make water surplus villages feed to the water negative villages. Now, once again, the kind of results that we got were fantastic because my whole idea was at least, if not solve the problem, my students will become more sensitive. It's one thing to get to know from a villager that he or she has to walk for 1 kilometer to fetch potable water, and it's another thing to actually walk that 1 kilometer for 5 days a week and fetch that potable water. You will get a little sensitive for sure. And the second program that we run is something that we were discussing, the Himalayan Outbound program. And why? I don't know how many of you realize this. Himalayas are also called the third pole. Do you know why? Any idea why we are called the third pole? The Himalayas, that is. I always call them my Himalayas, but he calls them his Himalayas. So I would say our Himalayas. The fresh water, about 80% of the fresh water in the world is trapped in the glaciers. Of that 80%, about 60 to 65% is in Antarctica, so the South Pole, including the Antarctica region. 5 to 10% is in the North Pole, the Arctic region, and 10 to 15% is in the Himalayan glaciers. 2/3 of the Indian subcontinent gets fresh water supply from the Himalayan glaciers. And the kind of erosion that we are seeing in the Himalayan glaciers is mind-boggling. So I keep going to Gomukh. So in my own experience, Gomukh has gone back by almost 20 feet. From my first trek to Gomukh and to the last trek that I did to Gomukh. Clearly, that's a problem. So we take our students there, and once again, using Google satellite imagery, We try to see as to what is the movement of glaciers, what is the movement of land, what is the movement of other masses, etc., and then try to address those problems, providing certain solutions for them. And again, that is at the most, at the least, my students become sensitive. Why? Because if you see a plastic bottle here or a plastic packet here, you may just frown at it. "Kisne pheka hai?" But when you see a plastic bottle or a plastic packet in a glacier, you feel physically repulsed because it really hits you here because it's disgusting. You know that this is where the fresh water is going to come for. This is what is the water that is going to feed and sustain us. And then when you see plastic, you feel repulsed and you want to do something about it. And that is why we take all our students, although it's an elective, but I was just telling you almost 95% of our students take that elective and go to the Himalayan region. So once again, academic heft combined with a little bit of a sensitivity towards what we see around us. And the final challenge, the fourth wicked problem that we are trying to address is the challenge around environment. And once again, what we have done, so when I took charge of ICOMBS 6 years back, 6 years and 3 months back, it was a rock. We are on a hill, 193 acre beautiful campus on a hill, and we started organic farming there. And people were like, why is this director doing organic farming? And then somebody also commented, किसान के बेटे को लाए हो तो किसानी तो करेगा ही, I'm not किसान का बेटा. But the reason why we were doing organic farming was twofold. One was to make the soil fertile, and two, to improve the AQI of the campus. And you'll be delighted to know, and I'm so happy to and proud to share this, AQI inside the campus is between 25 and 30. AQI outside the campus is between 160 to 180. And last year, we harvested 12 tons of vegetables and fruits, which obviously went to the same community, which earlier was wondering, why is this Kisan Kheti Badi in the campus? Now, everybody is very thrilled and happy about what's happening inside the campus. We measure AQI, we measure the decibel quality as well. We measure the decibel. So if the decibel goes beyond a point, so there are certain people, outside people who do certain things. I told them, "Band karwaunga, agar iske upar decibel gila." We measure the water levels, etc. And we are trying to bring the water levels up through water harvesting, etc., etc. So suffice to say, what I'm saying is that if you use technology to solve societal problems, the consumers will automatically get impacted. And therefore, my suggestion to everyone here at this conference is that you counter this Bani 1.0 that I talked about with Bani 2.0. And this is something that I have come up with. The B of my Bani stands for bravery, which means experiment. Get over the fear of failure. Don't be worried about whether things are going to work or not, because remember one thing, if I've taken 10 initiatives, 1 or 2 of them have failed. If I've made 10 decisions, 1 or 2 of them are likely to go awry. She so graciously talked about the peaks that I've climbed, but there are some expeditions which failed. Rudrakera failed for me the first time, then I had to go the following year and climb it again. Please remember, simply because you have failed in 1 or 2 things does not make you a failure. You become a failure the day you stop trying. उद्यमेन ही सिद्धंति कार्याणि न मनोरथैः नहि सुप्तस्य सिंहस्य प्रविशन्ति मुखे मृगाः. If a lion were to open his mouth, the deer is not going to come and sit inside. The lion will have to go out and hunt. Why am I talking about lions here? 2 reasons. One, to me, all of you sitting in this auditorium are the lions and lionesses of my country, who are going to build the future of this country. And 2, I don't know how many of you know this, but a lion succeeds in his hunt only once in 4 attempts. Did you know that? The lion fails 3 times. Now imagine you're a lion and you're chasing your prey and you fail. What would the lion do? The lion sit and say, I'm not going to chase anymore. I'll sit with my mouth open and wait for the prey to sit. No. The lion rests, takes a few deep breaths, the lion fails again, takes a few deep breaths, chases again, fails again, but the 4th time when the lion chases. That's when he gets the prey. Moral of the story, ladies and gentlemen, is hard work is necessary, but it is not sufficient. Beyond hard work, you need to have the patience, you need to have the perseverance, you need to have the grit, you need to have the resilience. That even if you fail, even if you fall, even if you stumble, you continue getting up and walking towards a path that you have chosen for yourself. Whether it is as an academic institution or whether it is as an individual. Fail you will, fall you will, stumble you will. If anybody has told you that he or she's never fallen or stumbled, he or she's either lying or they have never done anything new in their lives. Because only if you're walking on a path that has been walked by millions before will you not fall. But if you are trailblazing, you will fall. You will stumble. The problem is not with that. And the best lesson that I have learned is from this guy, which is Usain Bolt. Do you know how many championships Usain Bolt has won? Any guesses? 19. 1-9. 19 championships, of which he has 8 Olympic golds. Do you know how much running he has done in these 19 championships? Amit, you will be shocked. Less than 5 minutes. So is that the effort that Usain Bolt has put in? 5 minutes of effort for 19 championships? No. Usain Bolt used to say that he used to practice for 7 to 8 hours every week, every day of the week. No kind of rest, no off days. As in, nah, can't be. Must be practicing for 4-5 days, for 4-5 hours in a day, and obviously must be taking the weekends off. Even then, if you do a back of the envelope calculation, for every second that Usain Bolt won, he put in 500,000 seconds of work. That is perseverance. That is grit. So that is the amount of work that you need to put in. And then you will be able to get over the fear of failure because you know that you have given it your best shot. The A of my Bani stands for adaptability. What do I mean by adaptability? You know, whenever you face challenges, try to put them into 2 buckets. One is called area of control, the other is called area of concern. Area of control is something that is in your hands. Area of concern is something which is not in your hands. For example, COVID. How will the damn virus mutate? How long will it last? When will the vaccines come? Not in your hand. And therefore, it is an area of concern. What was in your hands? Build up your immunity, wear a mask, maintain personal distance. So focus on what is in your hands instead of wasting time or actually repenting and trying over things that are not in your hand. For example, I keep telling my students, the moment students come in, not just students, but even the parents, the first question is, package kaisa hoga? Hang on, अभी तक पढ़ाई आरंभ भी नहीं, package कैसा होगा वो तो बाद में पता चलेगा. Because again, how the economy is going to work, how are things going to happen, we don't know. You can't predict it. But what is in your hands to make sure that you're working very hard, to make sure that you're actually learning and not really thinking only about the package and the job, to make sure that you're giving yourself those skills which will be required in the world of tomorrow, and more importantly, to make sure that you understand what money is. Because for many people, money represents self-worth. Money represents self-respect. Money represents the control that they have in their life. So I'm not trying to be condescending towards money. It would be extremely foolish of a management professor to be condescending towards money. We teach people how to make money, or at least we hope we do. But do remember, money is what money does. It's merely an instrumentality, nothing more, nothing less. So instead of focusing on how much money you are going to make, if you focus on what you really want to do with that money, what you really need with that money, you will realize that you have enough. Like what Gandhi said, that this universe has got enough to satisfy every person's need, but this universe will fall short of satisfying even one person's greed. So can you differentiate between your needs and your desires? Because desires are unlimited. Yajjagrito durmudaiti daivam tadu suptasya tathaivaiti. Duram gamam jyotisham jyotirekam tanme manah shiv sankalpamastu. The human mind has a tendency to go as far in the state of wakefulness as it does while it is asleep. And the human mind is full of desires. If you reduce your desires, and if you focus only on your needs, you will realize that you have sufficient. And therefore, when in Mission Life, the government of India talked about the 3 R's. They said reduce, recycle, reuse. I said, no, you have to add a 4th R. And this is a message I've given to the Prime Minister as well. And that first R has to be refuse. Can you refuse first? Do I need another suit? Perhaps not. Do we need another car in a family of 2? Perhaps not. Do you need another house? Perhaps not. If you can't refuse, then reduce. And after reducing, see if you can recycle and also reuse. So the first thing has to be to refuse. And that is what I mean, differentiating between your need and your desire. The N, and this is very interesting, the N of my Bani stands for networking. Networking, why? Networking to collaborate. For example, on our own, we may be able to solve certain technological problems, but if we join hands with, let's say, Microsoft, then this network is far more stronger. AstraZeneca may have a certain capability. SII may have had a certain capability. But when they joined hands with Oxford, that's when the real magic started happening and the world got its vaccine in a record time. And that is my meaning of networking. We don't understand networking. Suffice to tell you, there was Charlie Luthers, and this is just for all the individuals who don't believe in networking. And I'll tell you why to network and the correct way to network. This Charlie Luthers, a sociologist. So he and his team did a very interesting experiment. They created two hypothetical constructs. One was called effective leaders, the other was called successful leaders. Effective leaders were those whose subordinates, peers, and superiors said these people are very good. Successful leaders were those who got the maximum number of promotions in a given time period. The first result of their study was these were two separate cohorts. Now, this is counterintuitive because you would imagine that effective leaders should also be the ones being more successful, getting more promotions, getting better jobs, doing better in terms of their entrepreneurial ventures, but that is not the case. And it collected data from a whole host of institutions as well as individuals. Then they dug deeper to find out what did successful leaders do differently. And what they found out was that while on three elements of leadership, both of them spent equal amount of time, the fourth element of leadership, successful leaders spent 80% more time as compared to effective leaders. And that element was networking. So networking is not a dirty word. Networking does not mean makhan lagana. Networking does not mean piling on. Networking means you should talk to people who are different from you. Now, why is that important? I was taking a session at an Ivy League university, tens of thousands of students. Now, there's this, not a friend really, she's an acquaintance. She came to me and said, Mancha, I'm going to try an experiment tomorrow. Do you want to be a part of it? I said, yes. What she did was she invited 200 random people into an auditorium such as this. Now, it's a huge university, like I said, 50,000 students are. So if you invite 200 random students, unlikely that they would know each other. Once they sat down, she said, look at the person that you have chosen to sit next to when you entered this room and see how that similar that person is to you. Lo and behold, that is the case. If a Caucasian white were to enter, he would first look for a chair next to a Caucasian white. If an African American were to enter, he would first look for a chair next to an African American. If an Indian were to enter, he would first look for a brown skin. And then he would go and sit next to that brown skin person. And then it got bizarre. A fat man was sitting next to another fat man. A woman with tattoos all over her body was sitting next to another woman with tattoos all over her body. And that is when we started talking about similarity attraction theory. There's this very powerful psychological phenomenon. We feel more comfortable with people who are similar to us. And then we said, break that habit. Break that habit. Why? Because if you keep talking to people who are similar to you, for example, those of you who are here for the conference, and if you say, okay, सारे बैंगलोर वाले हम लोग एक साथ बैठेंगे, सारे इफाई वाले हम लोग एक साथ बैठेंगे, सारे यहाँ वाले, सारी महिलाएं हम लोग एक साथ बैठेंगे, you will have the same bloody conversation every time. You will not have a different conversation. Mind you, I'm not saying don't make friends with people who are similar to you. What I'm saying is also reach out to people, also make friends with people who come from a different region, different religion, different background, different food habits, different vocation, different industry, because that is when you will figure out complementarities, that is when you will figure out opportunities of collaboration. Do not make the mistake of an artisan who boasts of 20 years of craftsmanship, when all he has is 1 year repeated 20 times. People make the same mistake on social media as well. LinkedIn. Okay, I'm in the steel industry, another steel industry, connect, steel industry, connect. You have 100 connections with steel industry. You have 100 connections? No. You have one connection repeated 100 times. You're not going to learn a different thing from all of those 100 people. And therefore, when you connect with different people, that is when you develop a thought process, a viewpoint, a perspective, which is more inclusive, which is more broader. So that is the networking that I'm talking about. And finally, the I of my Bani 2.0 stands for introspection. Introspect. And in that introspection, I want you to address two things. First is know yourself. Who are you? Now, this kind of comes as a surprise to many people. Say, I know who I am. I'm Professor so-and-so. Is that your identity? For example, when I was again graciously introduced, I was introduced thrice. Himanshu Rai, the director of ICOMBS. Please note that's my most superficial identity. Why? Because it's drawn from a designation that I have. Now, it's okay if others call me as Himanshu Rai, the director of ICOMBS, but if I start thinking of my identity as the director of ICOMBS, there's a clear and present danger. And the clear and present danger is, more often than not, we tend to associate our self-respect and our self-worth with our identity. Now, look at this connection. If I'm drawing my identity from my designation, and if I'm drawing my self-respect from my identity, the day the designation goes, so will my self-respect. So will my self-worth. I'm not going to be the director forever. It's a 5-year tenure. I finished one. For some strange reason, they gave me another. And this is the final one, because even the law does not allow beyond 2 tenures. I've already finished 1 year and 3 months. I'm there for 3 years and 9 months, unless they fire me before that. So one day I will cease to be the director. And therefore, if anybody asks me, who are you? In a flight or at an airport, I tell them I'm a teacher. Or I tell them I'm a mountaineer. Because those are the 2 things from where I draw my passion from. Those are the 2 things which I will do till the end of my life. Nobody can take that away from me. And therefore, I urge all of you to find out what is your true identity. Who are you truly? That is 1. 2, this is going to be a little bit of a situation which is a little conflicting situation, because this conference says human-centric. I have a problem with human-centric. And I'll tell you why I have a problem with human-centric. In 1989, Carl Sagan, the famous scientist, the brilliant scientist and science author, he made an unusual request of NASA. NASA, the Voyager had crossed Saturn, and it had done its useful job, and it was already going away, probably getting lost for eternity. Carl Sagan said, can we turn the Voyager and take one last picture of the Earth? Not NASA being NASA, it's a bureaucratic organization, there was a big ho-hum back and forth, etc. Till the time the chairman of the NASA stepped in, and on the blessed day of 14 February 1990, they turned the Voyager and took a picture of the Earth. You'll find that picture on Google. It's a ray of the sun, and in that there's a little blue dot. And Carl Sagan called it the pale blue dot. And then he became philosophical. He says, we think, we humans, are the center of the universe. We are not. We are not the center of the universe. The universe has got billions and billions of galaxies, of which there is one galaxy called Milky Way. We are not even the center of Milky Way. The Milky Way has got a long tail. We are not center of that bloody tail as well. On one end of the tail is a solar system. We are not even the center of that solar system. We are the third rock revolving around the center of that solar system, which is the sun. So that is the first thing. When we talk about human-centric, I think we're being very arrogant. We should talk about being planet-centric. We are not the only ones. The birds, the animals, etc., etc. So that is the first thing. Of course, I'm not getting into an academic talk, a very philosophical, broad term. So that is one. And at the same time, he got philosophical the other way also, and he said, but by the way, everyone that we know or love is in that pale blue dot. So make sure that you're also taking care of that pale blue dot. And therefore, my second urge to you, my second request to you is also figure out what is your relationship with the universe around you. Why? Because the moment we understand a relationship, we automatically understand our responsibility. So if I know that this is my father, I automatically know what my responsibility is. If I know she's my friend, I automatically know what my responsibility is. If I know this is my student, I automatically know what my responsibility is. So find out, what is your relationship with earth? What is your relationship with soil? What is your relationship with water? What is your relationship with air? Dev Shanti, Antariksham Shanti, Prithvi Shanti, Rapa Shanti, Oshadaya Shanti, Vanaspataya Shanti. What's your relationship with tree? What's your relationship with other animals? And the moment you understand your relationship, you will understand that we need to be planet and universe centric. You will automatically understand what is your responsibility towards soil, what is your responsibility towards air, what is your responsibility towards water, towards human beings, towards animals, plants, etc., etc. And once you understand your responsibility, obviously, you will do something about it. So ladies and gentlemen, I leave you with a little story. A little girl was walking with a father. The father was on the phone, and they were walking on a sea beach. The father went a few steps ahead, busy with his conversation. He finished his conversation. He kept his phone in his pocket, and he turned back to look at his little daughter, and he saw a very strange sight. There were thousands and thousands of starfish that were being washed ashore, and they were grasping for breath. And his little daughter was bending down, picking up the starfish and throwing them back into the sea. So the father laughed, and he then smiled and indulged a smile and said, "Darling, what are you doing?" The little daughter said, "Dad, I'm trying to save these fish." The father says, "But darling, you can't do anything. You can't make a difference. There's so many of them." The little girl bent down, picked up a starfish which was gasping, threw it back into the sea, and then said, Dad, I made a difference to that one. Ladies and gentlemen, be that good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful speech. I now request all the dignitaries to come forward for the unveiling of the conference proceedings. We request our guest of honor, Mr. Amit Shahi, Architect Manager, Microsoft Services Global Delivery, and Professor Mukesh Mishra, Area Chair, Marketing and Strategy, to join us on the dais.
Thank you all. Now to express our gratitude and to honor the distinguished guest, we now request Professor K.S. Venugopal Rao, Director ICFI Business School, to come forward and felicitate our chief guest, Professor Himanshu Rai, Director IIM Indore, with memento and shawl. Thank you, sir. Now I request Dr. Pankaj Singh, conference convener, to come forward and felicitate Professor K.S. Venugopal Rao, Director ICFI Business School, with memento and shawl. Thank you, sir. Now I request Professor Sunny Bose to come on dais to felicitate Dr. Pankaj Singh, conference convener of 11th ICOMBS 2025, with memento and shawl.
Thank you, sir. As we conclude the inaugural session of ICOMS 2025, I kindly request Dr. Pankaj Singh, the conference convener, to deliver the oath of thanks.
Respected Chief Guest, Professor Himanshu Rai, Director, IIM Indore, our own Director, Professor K. S. Venugopal Rao, Dean, Associate Dean, Heads, sponsors, colleagues from all the departments, participants, and my dear students. A very good afternoon to all of you. It is my privilege to stand before you to deliver this vote of thanks on behalf of the entire organizing ICOM team. As we conclude this insightful event centered on the theme human-centric marketing, bridging technology and consumer, let us take a moment to reflect on the collaborative spirit and the profound idea that have enriched our understanding over these hours. To our distinguished speaker, your expertise and thought-provoking insights have been the cornerstone of this event. You reminded us that while technology accelerates efficiency, but it's a human heartbeat that feels meaningful connection. A special thanks to all the participants and attendees who come all the way from different parts of the country for this conference. A special thanks to all my support staff, especially the IT department, the plantation department, logistics department, and all. As we leave today, let's remember that bridging between technology and the consumer is built on the understanding of ethics and the creativity. With this, I extend my deepest thanks to everyone who contributed to this event. Stay inspired, human-centric, and let's continue bridging gap with purpose. I will stop my part by a quote given by the Steve Jobs. He was saying that technology was there, will be there, but do not away from the human touch. So thank you all and have a wonderful day ahead.
I request all the attendees to rise for the national anthem as a mark of respect. Following that, we have a group photograph to capture this moment of occasion. Please rise for the national anthem. Now, I request all the dignitaries, attendees, faculties, research scholars to join us for the group photo.
Yeah, you can now make it. चलो 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 प्लीज प्लीज ठीक है यार आइए आइए हाँ आइए सर बंद करो SMS बंद करो SMS